Hello and welcome to another episode of the Business English Podcast, the one-stop destination for mastering the art of communication in the global business world. And today we'll be exploring a topic that's vital to every professional interaction you'll ever have: phrases for agreeing and disagreeing in business English. Now, today's episode is all about learning how to express agreement and disagreement in a way that is both professional and constructive. The ability to agree or disagree is more than just saying yes or no. It's about expressing your thoughts and opinions confidently while maintaining respect for others' viewpoints, which is an essential skill in today's multicultural, multinational business environment. The objectives of today's episode are quite simple. We aim to equip you with a rich vocabulary and array of phrases to express agreement and disagreement in different business scenarios. We will provide you with real-world examples to help you understand how and when to use these phrases. By the end of this episode, you'll have a toolbox full of linguistic resources to use the next time you find yourself in a situation where you need to voice your agreement or disagreement. But why is this topic so important? Well, in business, we find ourselves in a variety of situations where we need to communicate our agreement or disagreement. Perhaps you're in a meeting, discussing a strategy. Or maybe you're negotiating a contract. Maybe you're providing feedback to a team member or discussing a project with a client. All these scenarios require effective and clear communication of your agreement or disagreement. Mastering these expressions of agreement and disagreement is not just about conveying your thoughts, but also about building relationships. It's about showing respect for others' ideas, even if you disagree with them. It's about being assertive but not aggressive, confident but not arrogant. And most importantly, it's about promoting a healthy dialogue where all parties feel heard and valued. Now, in the world of business, your ability to communicate effectively can be the difference between success and, of course, failure. So, let's dive in and start building our arsenal of effective communication tools when it comes to agreement and disagreement. Run the tape. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Business English Podcast, helping professionals communicate more effectively, more confidently, and with impact. With your host, Rob, from Energetic English. Let's get down to business. Right, let's begin by exploring the core vocabulary and phrases for expressing agreement in a business setting. Agreement is more than just saying, "I agree." It's about how we convey our shared ideas, our understanding, or our acceptance of someone else's point of view. We'll begin with direct ways of agreeing. These are expressions that we use when we are in full agreement with someone. Now, as ever on the Business English Podcast, I will be repeating the phrases, as short as they are, twice before pausing so you can work your magic to try and internalize them for when you need them most. Right, here are 3 phrases for agreeing with someone in a direct way. 1. I completely agree. I completely agree. 2. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. 3. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. These are strong and confident expressions of agreement, usually used when there's no doubt in your mind about the other person's idea or proposition. A good example of a scenario of this could be, picture a strategic planning meeting. Your colleague presents an insightful analysis of market trends and suggests that the company should focus on developing more sustainable products to meet growing consumer demand. You've been observing the same trends and you are convinced this is the right way forward. You could express your direct agreement by saying, I couldn't agree more. focusing on sustainability is not just good for the environment, but it's also good for business. Okay, next up, we'll look at indirect ways of agreeing. Sometimes we want to express our agreement in a softer or more diplomatic way. Here are 3 examples. 1. I see where you're coming from. I see where you're coming from. 2. That's a good point. That's a good point. 3. I was just about to say the same thing. I was just about to say the same thing. These phrases communicate your agreement, but they are a bit less forceful than the previous ones we've just seen. Perfect for when you want to agree without appearing too strong. A contextual example here could be where a client proposes an extension on a project deadline. You agree because you know it will allow your team to deliver better results, but you also realize it's crucial to manage this properly to avoid setting a precedent. In this case, you could say, I was just about to say the same thing. An extension would help us ensure better quality, but we also need to ensure this remains an exception and not the norm. And finally, for this section, occasionally we may agree but with some reservations. In such situations, we could use phrases like this. 1. I agree with you to an extent. I agree with you to an extent. 2. I agree in principle, but. I agree in principle, but. 3. I see your point, but. I see your point, but. With these phrases, you're signalling that while you find merit in the other person's argument, there's a but or a caveat that needs to be addressed. A scenario could be, in a budget meeting, a team member proposes cutting costs in certain areas that you agree with, but you're concerned about one particular area. In this case, you could say, I agree with you to an extent. I think cutting costs in these areas would indeed be beneficial. However, I'm not sure reducing the budget for staff training would be in our best interest. Now, it's crucial to remember that how we agree in a business setting is heavily influenced by cultural nuances and norms of politeness. In English-speaking business environments, we usually soften our statements to avoid coming across as too blunt or forceful. So while I agree is perfectly valid, you'll often hear people using more nuanced expressions like, I think you're on the right track, or that seems reasonable. So there we have it, a brief overview of the key phrases we can use in business English to express agreement. Remember, these phrases are just tools in your communication toolbox. It's up to you to use them appropriately depending on the context, the relationship you have with the other person, and the point you're trying to make. In the next section, we're going to go further down the rabbit hole and look at expressing disagreement and how to navigate those trickier conversations. Now, before jumping into the next section, I wanted to take this opportunity to let you know that if you wanted to get more out of the Business English podcast, then that is possible. For example, full transcripts complete with timestamps so you never miss an expression, phrase-focused one-pagers to quickly refresh your memory before that next last-minute meeting, pronunciation support to assist with the trickier elements of business English, live read-along transcripts, quizzes, and much more. If this sounds like it could be useful, then the Business English Podcast Premium subscription could be for you. Check out the details at the link in the show notes. Right, on with the show. So, previously, we've discussed ways to express agreement in business English. Now let's shift gears and discuss expressing disagreement. This can often be trickier, but with the right phrases and a respectful approach, we can convey our dissent effectively and professionally. Just like agreement, disagreement isn't simply about saying, "I disagree." It's about communicating your differing perspective while maintaining a respectful and professional demeanour. As before, let's start with direct ways of disagreeing. These are expressions that you can use when you are confident in your position and feel the need to contradict someone directly. The three phrases are: 1. I don't see it that way. I don't see it that way. 2. I don't agree with you actually. I don't agree with you actually. 3. I'm afraid I can't agree. I'm afraid I can't agree. These are strong, clear expressions of disagreement, and they should be used carefully and respectfully. So let's look at an example where they could be used. Let's consider a sales meeting where a colleague suggests offering a significant discount to a new client. If you believe this could set a wrong precedent and potentially impact the company's profit margins negatively, you might say, "I'm afraid I can't agree. Offering such a large discount might set an unsustainable precedent for future deals." Now, often we may need to express disagreement in a softer or more indirect way, particularly when we want to maintain a positive atmosphere or avoid causing offence. Here are a few examples of how we can do this. 1. I see what you're saying, but... I see what you're saying, but... 2. I understand your point, however... I understand your point, however... 3. That's one way to look at it, but... That's one way to look at it, but... These phrases enable you to express disagreement without being too confrontational, allowing for a more constructive discussion. For instance, suppose you're in a team meeting and someone suggests moving resources from one project to another. You think this could delay the current project. In this situation, you could express your disagreement indirectly by saying, "I understand your point, but we should also consider the potential delays this could cause to our current project." And finally, if you need to express strong disagreement, there are phrases for that too. Though these should be used sparingly and only when the situation really calls for it. The three phrases we'll look at are: 1. I totally disagree. I totally disagree. 2. I couldn't disagree more. I couldn't disagree more. 3. That's not right at all. That's not right at all. Again, these are quite strong expressions and they should be used with caution. Be aware of the potential impact on the conversation and the other person's feelings. An example of when you would potentially be able to use one of these phrases could be a situation where a team member proposes to bypass a crucial quality check to meet a project deadline. Given the importance of maintaining quality, you might express strong disagreement by saying, "I totally disagree. Skipping this quality check could lead to serious errors down the line." Now, as with agreement, cultural nuances and norms of politeness play a crucial role in how we express disagreement. The aim is always to respect the other person's viewpoint, even as we present a contrasting opinion. In English-speaking business environments, we often use softening language or mitigating phrases to ensure our disagreement does not come across as too harsh or unconstructive. So, to wrap up this section, expressing disagreement effectively in business English requires a balance of clarity and tact. The phrases we discussed today can help you maintain that balance, but always remember the importance of tone, body language, and delivery. And there we have it. From I completely agree to I couldn't disagree more. We've explored the phrases that will enable you to express agreement and disagreement effectively in a business context. Mastering these phrases and understanding when to use them can greatly enhance your communication skills in the English-speaking business world. Remember, it's not just about what you say, but how you say it. Also consider the tone, context, and relationship with the listener when choosing your phrases. As a little thought exercise, consider how you could use these phrases more deliberately in your own professional life. Try them out in different scenarios and with various people, and notice how they impact your communication. For further practice, I'd recommend visiting our website where we've got additional resources and exercises that can help you polish your business English. And remember, the key to excellence is, of course, practice. As always, thank you for tuning in to the Business English podcast. We love hearing from you, so please share your thoughts, questions, or experiences with us via email or on our social media channels. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to give us a review and rate it up on your favorite podcast platform. That's all for today. I wish you continual success in your professional journey and looking forward to catching up with you in our next episode. But until then, keep it strictly business. You have been listening to the Business English Podcast. Remember to subscribe, leave a review, and we'll see you next time.